Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to, oh, let's turn the snow off. Hang on. Welcome to the last live stream of 2024. And today is quite a fun one because we're going to talk about what's new again, even though it wasn't that long ago that we had a What's New live stream. But developers have been busy and added some not only new features, but also enhancements to existing features. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. If you're watching on YouTube or live stream, YouTube or LinkedIn, then you're more than welcome to interact and ask a question, and that will come straight through to me and we'll try and pick those up. If you're in our live streaming room, then you can ask a question by going onto the Q&A tab, and that will go through to myself and also to Helen and Victor, who are hanging out in the chat as well. So try to keep your questions to that Q&A tab because that will make it a bit easier to find them. If you want some more space on screen and don't wish to ask a question, then you can click that and that will give you a bit more space on screen as well. So the plan for today is to go through the new stuff in Capture One and also the enhancements as well. For clarity, just so you know, I am using Capture One 16.5.3. If you're on Windows, the latest version is 16.5.2. And the reason for the slight discrepancy in this case is because there was a slight bug in 16.5.2 that client viewers weren't working especially well. So we brought out an update the same day. So no harm, but that's why there's a difference in those numbers. Also, while we're on the subject of releases and all those kinds of things, don't forget relatively recently using this up here is much faster to check for updates for Capture One and also download a new update as well. So that prevents you from having to go to the website, download Capture One, reinstall and so forth. This way it will just do everything automatically for you. So if you haven't discovered that, then that's the easiest way to do so. As we're on the subject of licensing and products and all that kind of stuff, let's cover this one quickly as well. You may have noticed if you go to captureone.com that you can now log in with your socials. So Google, Microsoft or Apple, those three in particular currently. So that means any new customers, rather than having to set up an email and a password, they can just use their social login. But if you are an existing customer and your email happens to match any of those social logins, so let's say you are david@captureone.com, that's not my address, so don't try and email me. But if I was the same on my Google account, I could then do a one-click and use the social login as well if I wanted to. So that's a new option for you. Secondly, the annoyance of having to go and retrieve your license key from your account and copy paste that is no longer necessary. So what will happen is when you see the welcome screen, it'll show you all the plans in your current account, and then you can just click on that plan and then go ahead and activate without having to copy paste your license key, which is kind of annoying that you have to do that. So this way it'll be a lot faster and a lot more seamless. So you will see some changes in the login screen when you first start up. Okay, so we've got that one out of the way. Let's go back into Capture One for a second and talk about the new stuff. So in the last update we had this happen, people masking, with the ability to automatically mask. Let's just take one image for starters. Automatically mask certain human attributes. So that would be body skin, face skin, and so on. One of those was eyes, but of course the way we treat the eyes can be a little bit different, whether it is the pupil or the sclera. So sclera is the fancy word for the white bit. So I'm sure you can imagine how it works, but let's just do a quick demo. So if I tap on pupil and iris and hit create mask, then we can see our mask created like so. If I do the same and click on Sclera and say create mask, then we've got our Sclera like so. Now, as I said, we tend to treat these a little bit differently. So if I go to the Sclera first of all, I can desaturate, I can brighten those a little bit. I'm going to over exaggerate so you can see the effect, but I probably wouldn't push it this far normally. And on the pupil, let's add in some saturation, and we can add in a little bit of clarity and structure like so. So now we've got a slightly over exaggerated eye, but you get the idea. So if I turn this mask on and off, you can see before and after. And of course, like all dynamic masks, and by dynamic I mean that they are created based on the subject or the attributes, we can copy paste them across and they will be recalculated. That's also the case if you're shooting tethered as well. So if you've set up some adjustments for, say, skin tone retouching, body skin retouching or whatever, then as you shoot tethered, they will be recalculated. So if I select the other two, helps if you press the right modifier. So if I select the other two, let's just bring them up like so, and I copy paste my layers from one to the other, and I can just hold the shift key down to do that in one instance. So if I shift click up here, then that will copy those layers across, and you saw those change in the blink of an eye. Didn't have that pun prepared, it just came to me in a flash of genius. But you can see the difference there like so. So now if we turn those on and off, you can see the effect has been copied across like so. So that just makes doing those kind of routine adjustments, like with the other people masking, also good for the eyes. So copy paste, shooting tethered, and also I saw there was a question that David asked about saving people masks as styles. Could you provide a written recipe? Not at this precise minute, David, but it's very easy to do. So let's say you wanted to have these adjustments always as a style. I would go to my styles, say save custom style. Let's just call that, and we turn everything off except for those layers. And we save those, and I'll call it iFix, like so. And then now that gives me my iFix style. So if I go back to this one and just reset that and zoom in again. Whoa. And now choose iFix. There we go. So it's done that nice and quickly. If you want to save that as a shortcut, we can go to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts, Custom Shortcuts, Add One, Apply Style, choose my style, iFix, pick a shortcut key. So let's do Control Option 6 to keep in with that. And now if we go back to this one and reset it, and I do Control Option 6 on my keyboard. Oh, I get the wrong one. Oh, helps if I do, was it Shift Option 6? There we go. Shift Option 6. Now it's applied my iFix like so. So yeah, pretty easy to do that. All right, there was another question from Raging Cane. What a name. We're going to come back to that, so hold that thought. I wasn't ignoring it. All right, let's go and move on to file size targets. So we've got some different images here. Oh, I just need to clear out my outputs folder on this particular Mac because it's full of stuff, so I'm just going to delete all of that from a session earlier this morning. So file size targets, what's that all about? If we go to our export tab, let's go to JPEGs here, like so, and we're going to turn that off. So I've got how many, 10 images here like so, and currently in Capture One, or not currently, but the last version, there's lots of different things you can do in export recipes. One thing you couldn't do was limit a file size. You could limit some pixel dimensions, as an example. You could limit lots of other things, but not the actual size itself. So let's first export these. So this is a JPEG, 2048 pixels, 80% quality. So let us just make sure this folder is actually selected. And we're going to export these out. So that's 10 exports. Oh, activity window is over here, and let's bring that across. So now if we look in our exports, we can see the file size. They are roughly, 850, 453. So they vary from 300 all the way up to 800 kilobytes, something like that. So now I'm going to leave those there. I'm going to check on this box over here. Target size in export format and size tool over here on the left. So let's turn that on, and I'm going to say limit that to half a megabyte, 0.5, like so. And now let's run the same export again. So let's just hit export once more, and you'll see these starting to pop in like so. There they go. So now if we look at this first one, that was 604 kilobytes. This one is now 408, so it's under. So this one here as an example, this was 850, now this is under at 371. So it's not saying the target file size must be 500 kilobytes, it's saying do not go above 500 kilobytes. So essentially we're trying to maximize the quality, but also keep that under the limit that you've set in export format and size. So if any of you are doing events or sports, this is my attempt at trying to do football action, which didn't always go well. But if any of you are trying to do this kind of thing, then of course having a specific file size, as we've learned from photojournalists, is actually quite important. So moving on, let me just check for questions over here. Helen and Victor have answered most things. Let's say, yeah, no, we're all good, and we are good on YouTube and LinkedIn as well. Fabulous, good stuff. All right, moving on. Magnified loop in Keystone. So let's go find an architecture shot, or a shot that, not necessarily architecture, a shot that we would like to adjust perspective or Keystone. Let's clear that out as well. So in the Keystone tool, you've got a couple of choices. You can use some sliders, or you can use the auto button, which actually works very well on this particular image. But if you want to go in manually, you can do so. And there's a nice added benefit that now when you pick up any of these little contact points to move around, is that you get a magnified view. So now I can precisely get the crosshair right on the corner of the building there, get the crosshair right under the eave of the roofs or roof. Same here for the bottom, I can nail that there, and same here for the top. I can pop that there as well. Now previously I'd have to alternate between zooming in and trying to sort that out, but now I can just do it with the magnifier. So if I hit apply, I'm going to get my nicely corrected building like so. There's an additional option for that. So in the sliders, if we go over here, the aspect slider, which essentially allows you to stretch or compress the image like so, which is sometimes necessary once if you've done a heavy perspective correction, it can look a bit odd. So this way you can get a bit more natural realism back into the image. But we've extended the range of this slider, which if you're using anamorphic lenses, then it can help to de-squeeze that. Essentially the tool is doing the same thing, that looks good, but the range is somewhat larger. So if you are using anamorphic lenses, it's going to help with that as well. Okay, now that's not a bad tip from Emil. Could we do the same for the straighten tool to make more accurate optioning the ruler? That's a good idea, so yeah. Always worth putting your ideas forward. Many of the improvements in Capture One come from you guys as well. All right, moving on. Presets now in the cloud. Did I have an image for this? I'm not sure. Don't really need an image for it, but if we go up here into cloud settings, if you haven't discovered this, this is available if you're on the all-in-one package. And to explain the product lineup a little bit better, of course we have Capture One Pro available as a subscription or a perpetual license. We have the all-in-one plan, which includes Capture One Mobile for use on the iPad or iPhone, and Capture One Live for cloud collaboration in the all-in-one plan. So if you have the all-in-one plan, you also have access to the cloud settings as well. And then of course we have Capture One Studio, which has additional tools. A couple of those we're going to look at today, targeted at workflow in the studio, which would also have cloud settings as well. So the idea is with the cloud settings is that instead of having to manually copy setup files from one Mac or PC to another one, to make your different systems, if you're using more than one, behave in the same way in terms of these things: styles, workspaces, recipes, shortcuts and presets, we can now do it in the cloud. So if I look in the cloud on my account, I have uploaded a matchlook preset, so I can download that to my machine. And then if I go back into the matchlook tool, which is over here, I've now got this landscape matchlook preset, which wasn't there previously. So that's a much faster, seamless way to do it. What's changed in this version is that formally, if we go back into this window, we only had styles available. We did not have tool presets. So now if you're running with tool presets, you can use those as well. Speaking of Capture One Studio, we're going to move into Live for Studio, a small enhancement there. So if I go to the Live for Studio tool, we know it's a studio only tool because it has Studio next to it. And what this tool does is interact with an iPad. So let's open up this iPad and hopefully I will be able to start broadcasting my screen. But Live for Studio just has a very simple helper app here, and I can decide what I want to share. So I'm going to start sharing my collection there, and then I'm going to go into Live for Studio, and then we're going to share to you my iPad, hopefully. Yeah, so you're looking at my iPad over here. And you can see shared is expand background. Why does the session have such a strange name? You'll see in a second. So if I tap that, I now enter my collection like so. And if you haven't seen this before, all that needs to really happen. I'll show you I'm not cheating. Oh, that camera is not working. 1 second. Hopefully it will come to life. Maybe not. I did have an overhead camera as well, but it's decided it's not going to play ball today. That's a shame. Let's just come back out and back into it. There we go. No, it's not playing ball. Sorry. So you have to take my word for it. We are seeing what we're seeing on my iPad. So the only stipulation is that this has to be on the same network as the host computer, like so. So those being on the same network, then they will find each other, and then this gives someone a great way to interact with the shoot. They have independent control of changing star ratings and color tags, and you'll see if I just go to this one and hit that with 5 stars, and then we go back to this one and take this one here, you can see this has now been hit with 5 stars. If you look at the bottom of your screen just next to me, if I add this as a green tag perhaps, and we go back into the iPad, you can see this now has a green tag like so. Now what's new in this, if I go back to this view, is that now up in the top right hand corner we've now got a filter. So previously you could see, or your collaborator could see all or nothing, but now they can say, let's just look at the green images, or let's look at the green images and the 5-star tagged ones. Over here on the left-hand side, I can clear the filters if I wish, so I can clear that one and clear that one, and then we're back to normal. So the additional feature is that filtering, but if you haven't discovered this yet, if you're running Capture One Studio, then it's actually a really nice little addition to Live for Studio. Question from Dom there, I think. Not sure I understand, Dom. One of the in-app announcements said that Capture One Mobile session support was coming by the end of the year. I'm assuming it's not coming now. Is that still planned? So for sessions in mobile, it's a little bit more involved than first thought, I think is the best thing to say about it. So it's not something we've stopped investigating, but it's more challenging than first thought. So you are correct in assuming you're not going to see it by the end of the year. Okay. Okay, what's next? Let's stick with this as we've got this image up on screen, and this would make the most sense to have a look. But also in Capture One Studio, we have a collaboration with an external handy piece of software called Photoroom. And what Photoroom does is a number of things. It can cut out images like this and drop out the background if you wish. It can also expand the background if need be. Oh, I'm actually on the earlier JPEG, so let's go back and find my raw file. We want the raw file here. So if I right click and say edit background with AI and Photoroom, and then it will connect us to the Photoroom service. Now this is an external service. You do need to be connected to the internet, because what's going to happen is that images are going to be sent to Photoroom's cloud servers. The operation is going to be made and it's going to be returned to Capture One. So this does require an internet connection. So you've got a couple of choices. You can do replace, which allows us to replace the background with something transparent, a solid color, an image, or generative AI. Or what's just been added is this expand feature. So this is a little bit lacking in some space on the left-hand side. So I'm going to say, please add 1,000 pixels and pin the image to the right like so. And I want a JPEG back, and I want it to go to my session output folder. So if I say expand background, we're going to see a progress bar pop up on screen, and this will take anything from 10 to 30 seconds, depending how busy the servers are, how big the image is, and so on and so forth. So now if I go to my output folder, you can see it's now back in, and there we've got our expanded image with some extra pixels on the left-hand side. So if I put that in our capture folder and compare it to this, then you can see there's the original and there's the JPEG with its extra pixels on the left-hand side, like so. So that's Photoroom integration. You can access it by right-clicking on an image and choosing Edit Background with AI and going to Photoroom Beta like so. Now, any of you can test it. If you don't have a subscription, then it will watermark the image, but it'll allow you to assess the quality of the background dropout, the expansion, and all that kind of stuff. And then if you want to jump into a subscription, I believe you can say learn more, and then it will take you to a dedicated Capture One page where you can learn about the pricing and so on and so forth. So that's with Photoroom. Don was asking, does Photoroom Cloud Edits maintain existing adjustments of the original image? Yes, it does. Yeah. So what will happen is Capture One will export, final format, and then return the either expanded, cut out, or whatever image with those adjustments. So correct. You don't need to do it all over again. Otherwise, that would be a little bit laborious. Also, what I should point out is this can be done on a batch of images, so you don't have to go one by one. If you wanted to send 300 images in one hit, you could right click and then just do everything in a batch as well. So you don't have to do it one by one. It works in the background, so you can carry on and do something else in Capture One at the same time as well. Nice one. Okay, moving, just checking for questions over here as well. Yes, this is being recorded. As always, it's going straight to YouTube as well. Comment from Hayes, is this for folks who don't own Photoshop? Well, yes, you can do this in Photoshop, but that also requires time to do it in Photoshop. This is a good solution if you're shooting this kind of stuff and you need to quickly drop out backouts for e-com, or perhaps you've got your Etsy shop making dog collars or something like that, and you want to drop it out or put it on different color backgrounds. This makes sense, of course. Yes, you can do a lot of these operations in other applications, but if you want to do it automatically and with speed and something you don't have to interact with, this makes a lot more sense. Just checking on the questions there. No, I think we are all covered currently. All right. Brett says you can cut out subjects in Capture One without Photoroom. Yes and no. You can of course do subject and background selection masking, but you can't necessarily drop out to transparency and also have that alpha returned as well. So yes, you can make the selection. Yes, you could bump up exposure and all that kind of stuff, but this is also giving you the alpha channel as well and a PNG with transparency as an option as well. So it's a little bit different, Brett, but yes, we do have subject and background masking. Okay, performance stuff, which we all like. Let's go to this one, faster export. So, obviously, exporting as quick as possible is very helpful. It has always been a background task and continues to be a background task, but we've got some really nice speed improvements. And to give you an idea, I'm going to put up this fancy animated graph of speed improvements. So this is 100 Canon R5 images. Less time is better, of course. So the bottom line is our latest release and the top line was the release before that. So this is 16.5.1 compared to 16.5.2 and 3 if you're on a Mac. So you'll see, depending on the kind of hardware that you're running, depends on the speed increase. So you can see an M2 Ultra is a whopping nearly 5 times faster. M1 Max is still 2.5 times faster. M1 Pro, because we can't obviously, or the M1 Pro is not as juicy as the others, then it's still moderately quicker as well. But the bigger the processing power you have, the more benefit you're going to get as well. It's probably also fair to say that you'll see most of the benefit or more benefit when exporting JPEGs, but you will still see a benefit when you are exporting TIFFs as well. So if I come back into Capture One for a second, let's just select all of these and we're going to do the same thing. Let's do a full-size JPEG and we're going to export. And this will happen pretty quickly, as you can see. So when I did a quick unscientific test, just looking at my notes here, so I could do 56 or 50 odd TIFF files from an M4 Max in 15 seconds, which was pretty good. So this is a new Mac that is fresh out the box. So this is an M4 Max, 64 gig RAM, but crushing the export speed now for sure. If you are doing quick proofs, and what a quick proof is we use the small JPEG that Capture One creates when you shoot tethered or import, and we can export that out as well. So if we export out quick proofs as an example, they come out the gate really super fast. But suffice to say, whatever equipment you're using, then you're going to get a benefit. So these performance improvements are applicable to all, but as I said, depending on your equipment, you will see more or less of a benefit. One thing to note about that, if we look in settings, also under image processing, and this will depend whether you're on Mac or PC. I'm running on a Mac, as you know, but you've also got some different ways to turn on and off the internal guts, also for troubleshooting. So CPU safe mode means we turn off the graphics unit and the neural engine in the case of the Apple Silicon, or you can just use CPU and GPU, or you can use CPU and neural engine. So this way it helps us to troubleshoot if there will be issues. For those of you, I saw someone mentioned was having an issue with export, I think getting slow on Windows or something like that. We are aware of a couple of issues with this. You can try and turn off hardware acceleration and also get in touch with support, because knowing what hardware you're running will help us to fix and diagnose the problems as well. So, all right. Anything else to mention on that? I don't think so. Peter says, is the latest Capture One version optimized for M4 chip? Yes. You don't really have to differentiate between M1, 2, 3, 4, you'll see from, let's bring up the fancy graph again, that everything benefits. The reason why this doesn't show M4 on it is because when we were testing and benchmarking, there wasn't an M4 to hand. But I can definitely say that this machine, even though just to my right is my older M1 Max, that still had a really nice bump in performance. The M4 Max, obviously being 4 years newer, is obviously doing better as well, much better. Okay, faster export. Also on the subject of performance is faster people masking. So let's have a look at back to this guy again. So I've got 3 images held up here. So if I hit the subject button, that's going to mask the subject, and that is running about, looking at the notes, about twice as fast as it was before. So if it took you 10 seconds on your machine with the last version, it will now take you 5 seconds. Don't think any of them is that slow, but it will be significantly quicker. Now if I do background masking for these 3, pretty snappy. So approximately a couple times faster for that. That also includes things like if we do a hair mask. So let's do a hair mask, bam, like so. So nice and quick to do it. Also match look, if you haven't used match look yet, then give it a try, but that's also 2 to 3 times faster. So going back to my preset that I downloaded earlier, so I'm going to choose my Moody Landscape preset, and that's applied that to 6 images very quickly as well. So match look also getting a speed boost. Couple of other things for export recipes. Copy originals like so. So if we take these images and we look in our export tab, you'll find a new default recipe called copy original files. And what this does is simply take the original file and copy it to a location of your choice. Formerly, you had to right click on an image. So if I bring the browser back and right click, let's get rid of you. Formerly, you had to say either here, export original files, or over here, file, export original files. Now you can do it in an export recipe. So what you'll see here, when you have this set to original, you'll get the option to export as EIP. And EIP means the raw file and the adjustments packaged up. So if you're sending raw files to another Capture One installation, that will bring the raw file and the adjustments with it, which is very useful. And of course, you can specify where this goes. So if I type that for a second and we run this export, oh, the output folder does not exist, always helpful. Let's put it here, choose that and export. Now what you'll find here is copy original files. So now I've got my EIP files, which is the raw file and the adjustment. But again, much easier having that available as an export recipe and having to jump through those hoops. Focus tool and face recognition. The little known focus tool, which I'm still surprised when not just me, but other people are visiting customers out and about in the world, that they don't know this feature exists. Not only they don't know the focus tool exists, because it is a little bit hidden, but the focus area option down here. So set to center to eye. As I go through pictures, it will just find the eye in the image like so. So you don't have to reposition where the focus tool is looking. We can also say center to face and adjust the zoom level. So now as I scroll through pictures, it's going to pick up the face like so. So that's a functionality which has always been there for quite some time. What we've changed is the way we recognize faces. So there's lots of different ways that you can digitally recognize a face. We do it by looking for landmarks, which are nose, eyes, mouth. The way we look and identify those landmarks is now better, essentially. So with cases where it's not necessarily a straight head-on face, or the face is partially obscured, then we're much better at detecting those faces. So if you've used this tool before but found it not super reliable, then it's now much more reliable. What I can also show you is if we create another floating tool, so let's have another focus tool, is that they can also have different modes. So this one can be face and this one can be eye, and then they will update like so. And what you can also do, if we add another focus tool, for those of you not shooting people, we can set this to none, and then you can use the cursor tool here to set this to a specific spot. So if you're shooting product as an example, and you want to lock an area, which could be a logo, it could be checking depth of field in 2 different spots, now you can lock that in one place. So you can have dynamic focus tools and moving focus tools as well. If we go to, let's add a custom tool tab. You could also have these sitting in a tool tab if you wish. So if you prefer to have these in a tool tab, then you can do so depending how much screen resolution you have. So if we set this one to eye and then I go through, then you can have a setup like this. Dom, if you save a workspace, it should save them at the correct size. I'm saying that now without specifically testing it, but that's my impression. So if it's not, then yeah, I agree, it would be nice if they resize correctly, but try saving a workspace if you've yet to do so. We've done that, and we've done that. So that's it. So in summary, and we'll look at a few other questions in a second, we've got the pupil and iris masking, file size target for JPEGs, the magnified loop, and the anamorphic D-squeeze extended slider, presets in the cloud, ratings in and tags in Live for Studio on the iPad that you saw, background expansion in Photoroom. Again, you can test that out if you wish. Faster export, faster people masking, and faster match look, copy originals and export recipes, and improve face recognition, and that sign in with socials and the need to not have to find your license key, which is very welcome. So not a bad bunch of changes for lowly dot release from 16.5.1 to 16.5.2. So yeah, a nice juicy one for you all to try out. Okay, just checking any last questions. Is there a quick key to get back to the image layer? Yes, there is. So what you can do in Edit Keyboard Shortcuts, shortcut keys, if you're ever wondering if there's a shortcut for something, the best thing to do is to go into the keyboard shortcut editor and search for it. So if I type in image, move, oh, what is it? Or does it still have a funny name? Yeah, actually, that's a fault on our part. It says select background layer. So we need to change this to select image layer. But yes, you can add a quick key for that. So noted. But always use the search term, try a few different things to make sure that you can find it. Or again, if we look at the top layer, you can see all the different shortcuts available for layers. Adding empty ones is also, of course, very useful, and added filled ones. And then you'll also find wherever it is, I can't even see it now. That's why sometimes it's easier to use the search function to find it. But yeah, it's possible. How does changing the scale affect the image quality of the export when you're using the new target size feature? So what happens with the target image size? So let's say we had in our export tab, so let's say we were doing JPEG 2048 pixels for web use. The output size will always be 2048 pixels in this case, because we've said we want the long edge to be 2048 pixels down here. What is going to be changed dynamically is the quality slider. So if you're putting a target size in, notice how the quality slider then dims out. So you are relinquishing control of the quality slider. So you have to make a judgment call if that's what you want. So if you are quality minded, I would say be aware of that. Certainly depending where the image is going to end up. If you're obviously doing sports journalism, where it's just going to be this big on a web screen, then you're going to be less concerned about, oh, should this not dip below 88 points or something like that. So just keep in mind that you relinquish control of the quality slider if you are setting a target size. So if you set a ridiculously small target size, you're going to probably start to notice the JPEG compression, but that's what's happening there. Paul says, I noticed the layout change for the update. So the layout doesn't change, the workspace potentially changes, but what you should always do is save your workspace. And what you'll also find in the save workspace is your old Capture One workspace from the previous version. So you can always get to that. The gallery view hasn't been removed. So what you mean is this. The gallery view is simply hiding the viewer, which is often misunderstood. So under View Viewer, all you're doing is turning this off and back on. So what you should do, Paul, is look in View and see what you have set as the shortcut. Maybe you changed it to something else, or the shortcut isn't there anymore, but that's a good way to identify. But no, it hasn't been taken away because all you're doing is hiding and showing the viewer, that's all. Does set target size work for TIFFs? No, it's only for JPEG. So if you've got TIFF, you'll see that disappears. You can compress TIFFs in various different ways, but you cannot set the target size. It's just for JPEGs. Tuck says, oh, there is an old workspace. Yes, we always get loads of abuse for changing the layout, but there's a slightly mercenary reason for changing it, is that we want you to see new tools. Because let's say match look tool, if you were running off your workspace that doesn't include that, then you might not know it exists. So if we annoy you a tiny bit by putting the workspace back to default so you can see the new stuff, but we always offer you the old Capture One workspace. Regardless of that, you should be saving your workspace anyway. So my sympathy for changing your workspace to default is relatively minor when you've got the old one, and you should save a workspace as well. What has been annoying is there has been a couple of bugs where the workspace is reset when you opened a new session or catalog, which is super annoying, and that is definitely not okay. But do remember to save your workspace. Nice one. I believe that is it. I did say I was going to answer a question earlier, which I can't remember if I did or not. So that was the amusingly named, I can't find it. Raging Cane, that was it. What about upgrading the graphics engine to work with Apple Silicon? It does. Why do sliders lag on external displays on my M3 Max and the M2 Ultra? A couple of things. One, I will agree, our performance could be better on larger displays. What you should check though, because I'm running a 5K display here, and I find like on M2 Ultra, M3 Max, I don't actually have an issue. On my M1 Max, it was a little bit on the slow side. But what you should be checking is that under Image, you've got this set to 5120. So this is the preview image which we're looking at in Capture One most of the time. So if that's too small, then we always have to be decoding raw data. So if you've got this on 1280 thinking it will make performance better, it will actually make it worse. So do make sure you have preview image size set. But I agree we could make it better on larger displays, and we are looking into that as well. So it's not an unknown issue, and we are looking to improve that as well. All right. I think that's it for today. Any feature requests, if you scroll up in the chat on YouTube, there was a comment from us which tells you where to put them. So any feature requests that you have, pop them up there, and then that way it goes through to the right people. I'm not necessarily the right people. There we go. I'm going to put our own comment up. So capture1.co/improve. And then that way it will go through to the right people. capture1.co/improve. Great. So that was the last live stream for 2024. So we'll be back. I'm going to put the snow back on again in 2025. So enjoy the break, the holiday break over the next few weeks. Hope you come back rejuvenated and refreshed for 2025. So hope to see you all then in the future. So take care and enjoy your weekend and next week when it comes. Bye now.